Hello, my name is Teresa Taylor. I have three sons, Alandis, Armel, and Avery. This is my oldest son, Alandis. July of 2016, my son got into an altercation with some people he knew, some neighbors. The reason for the altercation was about a dog that urinated on one of the neighbors' clothing. The neighbor got very upset with my son and wanted him to pay for the items. My son refused, and that caused the conflict. The conflict carried on onto Facebook, and it led to some very, very disturbing words coming from my son and from the person that he had the altercation with, which was a guy. The female continued to push the issue of my son paying for her clothing. Basically, she wanted $25 for the clothing that the dog had urinated on. My son refused. And because of that, the girl's boyfriend got involved. And my son worked an overnight shift. And when he got home, before he can do anything, it was very early in the morning. Very early in the morning. My son got off, I believe, at 6:30 or 7 o'clock a.m. So he worked all night, and he was arguing with this guy on Facebook. So because of that argument, it carried out to the next day, and my son got home, and before he can cross his threshold, the guy approached him. He approached him on my son's very doorsteps and initiated a fight. My son only tried to defend himself, and after the first fight was over, the guy and the girl was not satisfied with the end result of the fight, believing that my son probably was the one who got the best of the fight, and the guy and the girl, it just wasn't something that they just didn't want to walk away from that. So they went back to their house, which was just a few doors away from where my son lived, and the girl got a knife and the guy got a bat. And the guy and my son got into another physical fight. My son had a brick. He hit the guy in the face with the brick, and somehow my son ended up on the ground, and the guy hit him with the bat. And as my son got up to continue to fight, he was wrestling with the guy, and during the wrestle, the girl stabbed him in his backside. And at that time, I was told that my son did not realize he had been stabbed, and that his girlfriend and roommate did what they could. They called the police and tried to stop the bleeding. But unfortunately, due to lack of knowledge, they did not know how to cover and protect a wound of that nature. So my son bled to death. And I truly believe that he died before he got to the hospital. So I just want to give this information out to those mothers, those people, those parents, to all Black women, Black mothers who are suffering the loss of a child through Black crime and violence. I understand what you're going through. I truly, truly do. Unfortunately, a lot of these crimes are committed by people who we may know or have seen or heard of. A lot of these young people are innocent. they get shot just from being in the area of gunfire. And the perpetrators are looking for retaliations. I truly believe a lot of these shootings are from retaliations. I grew up here in Chicago, born and raised in the Ida B. Well Homes project, and we did not grow up with this kind of violence and crime in our community. Even though we were not the best places to be, we had a community of unity and love. And there was not a time in our communities where we had drive-by shootings and the violence that occurs. If there was ever a problem someone had with another, they took it to the streets in a fist fight. And I know in this day and age it's not fist fighting anymore. Unfortunately, people are picking up weapons to do their battling and their fighting and their combating. And that comes from fear, that comes from people just wanting to do things the way they want to do it, taking the law into their own hands. And unfortunately, that is the the demise of our Black communities. We as parents, we have to teach our children to learn how to deal with conflict, learn how to deal with anger, learn how to deal with jealousy, with their peers, with people around them in their communities. And we could definitely give our children a bigger and brighter and better future than what we are looking at now. I have two granddaughters, ages 2 and 5 years old. And as a Black woman, I want to teach them everything that I've learned to survive. Unfortunately, everything that I've gone through in life has been survival. I have always been misjudged, and I've always been looked at as a mean person, someone that is unapproachable by a lot of people who really did not know me. And it's because of their lack of knowledge about me. They never really got to know my story. And my story is something of sadness. It's something of great depression and pain and hurt and sorrow. And that's coming from my childhood all the way up into my adulthood. So there are a lot of things that we need to teach our young people. And one of the things is how to come together and unify, especially and when we or they feel like they are in a conflict or a combative um, moment with their peers. So I just want to let you know, Black woman, mother, who are still raising children, you are not forgotten. We have to come together and put together a unified environment for ourselves so we can be better, so we can be restored to do the great things that we have been chosen to do for our households and for our communities. Communities don't need to be silenced. Another reason why a lot of the crime and violence continues on in our communities and neighborhoods. The community is silent. There are people who know what's going on amongst other people, rivals, adversaries, whatever. We have to stop being silent about the violence that plagues our communities. We have to take the tape off. That is part of the reason why the crime rate in our communities has risen to an all-time high, far surpasses what I grew up in. in the projects, in poor communities. We just did not have this kind of violence. We didn't. And that's how I know it can be stopped. It does not have to continue on this way. So again, I come to you in a humble way to say, let's come together. Let's stop being silent and come together to figure out a way to make our communities great again. Our communities were full of love. They were full of learning, education. They were filled with activities from swimming to dancing to basketball games. So many different things our communities had. Gardening. There were times when we had parties amongst our different sections in the community. So there is a way that we can come together. We had workshops where young people can go in and learn different things. Our schools had trade, skill classes. We need to bring that back into our community so our young people can put down guns and weapons and pick up tools and books again. So I ask you to share, like, and subscribe to this page. Mama, don't cry. Let your heart be healed. This is a platform and a movement to heal and beautify Black women who lost a child to Black crime and violence. I just want to invite you to join me. Get on board. Let's start something great and powerful. Let's put passion and love back into our communities. It can happen. We need it. Our children need it. The future needs it. And it can happen. God bless you, and I will see you again.